cost of a survey and a couple of hours in it, there's a peace of mind there that everything's captured and everything's appropriate, and you're going to get it right. You're going to get the job done right the first time, and you don't have to pay any more money on it. G'day guys, welcome to the MTDC Lounge. This is a podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about designing and building your ultimate home and what to expect. Whether you're a DIY renovator, a budding developer, or everything in between, we'll dive into the building journey, touching on what to expect, what's next, and how to go about it. We'll hear from a heap of experienced consultants and trades about all aspects. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to the lounge. G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the MTDC Lounge. You're here with the host Matt, and I've got Mitch on the desk again. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good mate. How you going?
Good, mate. Good, mate. I thought it was going to be important to get you on the potty tonight because one of our biggest things that we're driving through at the moment is the importance of a survey. Hey, we've just had countless people come back and say, hey, do we need a survey? How important is a survey to our job? And my opinion, it's incredibly important.
Yeah, well, I'm almost finding we're getting the opposite question. It's we're letting clients know in these site visits, hey, we do need a survey, but I guess not trying to, but we're explaining to the clients what the importance is and trying to really solidify that this is really quite an important document, and it can go belly up when you don't, if you don't get this for various reasons, which I guess we can have a bit of a chat about the why we get them and what happens when you don't.
I think the killer thing about it is, and you're right, when we do explain to the clients why the survey is important, they 100% do come on board. But I think one of the curly things to explain to a client is why there's so many different surveys, what they mean, when they're needed in the system, and how do we get across how important a survey is to a design? And I think tonight what we can do is we can go through a few horror stories, mention what it means not to get a survey, and I guess what it means if you don't get a survey and you just do, a basic dumpy level or take your own couple of heights, I think. Yeah. So I know you've got a couple of horror stories, and let's share them, shall we? So What do you got first up?
So the first one was an interesting one. It was a job that I went to, had a chat to the client about an extension that they were doing. They had recently done an extension maybe 2-3 years ago, a rear extension, and I was having a chat to them about going up to a second story. During that conversation, we spoke about what they wanted for that design, but also I mentioned to them, well, you've recently done a build. Did you get a survey for your original works? If not, we're going to need one for this works. And her response was, I'm already a bit more confident with you guys because you're mentioning a survey, because the original process they went through for the previous one, they didn't get a survey. And we had a bit of a chat about, tell me about that. What happened, I guess, if it was an issue. What happened with this client, with the original renovation that they did, they didn't get the survey done, so they did the existing plans, the concepts, all the approvals without defining where their boundary lines were, and then as a result defining how close the works or the extension was going to go to the boundary line. It was never really identified. So what ended up happening, and they, when we're going through the different surveys, to get work started, one of the surveys that you will need is called an ident survey. For works to start, the builder will peg out exactly where the extension is going, and then the surveyor is going to say, right, this matches the approved plans. This is how close you are to the boundaries. So a survey was always going to be needed. It's just that one wasn't obtained early on when it should have been obtained,
which is the peg out survey. So the peg out survey that they ask for right at the end of this, like the CC stage, or the certifier, or even the council will put it as a condition that they need to have a peg out survey before the work start. And this is where, unfortunately, a lot of builders or a lot of homeowners come unstuck because they don't get the peg out survey.
Yeah. So in this case, it was lucky. They did get the peg out survey. Did they get it when they needed it? Not quite. They did get it before things had gone too far, but it was more of a result of the builder saying these measurements, something's not right. But essentially what happened when they did eventually get the PEGAT survey, the footings and everything had been dug, and then they had pegged out exactly where it's going. The PEGAT survey got done and everything was out. The levels were out, the distances were out. What it turned out to be is that the boundary line where the previous drafty architect designer, where they assumed the boundary line was where the fence line was. This block in particular was backing onto a bit of a bushland, small bushland. Their fence line was actually 3-4 meters further back than where their boundary was. So they had, claimed some more land than they should have or have really. And it meant that all works had to stop on site. Any of the footings, basically all works halted on site until they got this updated survey, and they had to go back through the approval process all over again. So new plans, go back through council, get that approval, get a construction certificate modification, new engineering because the plans had to change as well so that they could come back to be building on their own land. And it was just a bit of a mess that in this case could have been avoided if the survey was obtained at the early parts of the design. So you know exactly where your boundary line is, know where your fence line is in relation to your boundary to go, hey, look, there's actually 3 meters here that we can't use.
So it's important, I guess, and one of the things that we touched on, we have to identify the different levels of surveys. So you've got your standard ident survey. It's got nothing on it. It just says, hey, this is where your house is in relation to your boundary and everything around that, everything that's currently on that block. Then you've got your contour survey or your detailed survey, and then that contour or detailed survey would show you the heights, the levels of your trees, your gutters, all your finished floor levels, and
the land, the whole.
It's the most detailed survey, right? Like you're going to have your easements on there, the sewer lines. You're going to have everything that we as designers or any other consultants that the client is going to need throughout the entire process are going to base most of the information off. And what I think some of the people are missing is that this document is actually a legal document that council use, all consultants, designers, engineers, all of the guys who need that use it. And I think it's lost on some people that, while it is it feels like an unnecessary cost, but $2,200 or whatever it might be, depending on, the size of the block or whatever have you, $2,200 for the peace of mind that your house is going to be designed like this poor client that you had at the beginning, right? Won't have to then go through the heartache of building or designing the house, and then going through the process of finding the builder, and then going through the build, and then doing all the color choices, only to find out that the house is in the wrong place, or you can't build the house that big, just like that client had faced. And I think that's the holding costs, is money just thrown straight out of the window for what, a $2,200 report.
Yeah. That arguably, I mean, I know that when we're working with jobs that have surveys versus that don't, the ones with the surveys, is a lot easier for us to capture things that we need to actually design for at the beginning too. So it's there's no downside. Like to getting the survey, it means that we can design to exactly what's around. Is there a tree on the neighbour's block that we need to be aware of? How big is it? How close is it? The slope of the land,
the root system of that tree. I think that gets lost on a lot of people too. Yeah, slope of the land. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. Things like your ridge heights, particularly in alterations and additions, knowing exactly what that will actually to go more into the ridge heights and things like that as well. It's going to allow us to verify what the existing roof pitches are of these roofs as well. We've got the gutter height, we've got the ridge height. We can work out the rest. Without that information, it's a guess. It's unless you're climbing these roofs and
taking your own levels.
But even then, we're not surveyors. No. Like we'll and it comes to another point, I guess. When we get the contour survey, it's going to be a detailed survey of the roof of the outside of the house. When we do our own measurements, we'll do all of the inside, and then 99% of the time, we'll redraw the house from our measurements on the inside, overlay that to the contour survey, and our lines if they're all lining up and is on top of each other, it means that we've verified that twice. The surveys have done it. They've certified exactly where that is, and we basically we fill it out in the middle. I mean, if there is a something a little bit missing, it's a clue for us to dig a bit deeper. We might need to go back and go, right, there might be actually a void within this wall, or these walls are actually cavity brick instead of single studs or something like that. But it's just another way to make sure that the plans that you're getting done are accurate from the beginning, not halfway through construction. Or
it's such a safety barrier too. You know what I mean? Like the amount of times that a survey's saved us from well, not so much saved us, but made us double check a certain measurement or why something is sitting exactly where it's sitting. And yeah, you're right. A random void in a place. We had a client the other day who came in and I said, "Oh, this is a weird void," and this was right on their patio, and they go, "Yeah, it is weird. It's there though." You know, like it. But inside it, there, it's a square. Like inside, it's walled off. So without a survey or without something to show us that measurement is out, we would never know, or we would assume that we've taken the number wrong or something like that. But it isn't until that survey comes in and goes, "Well, hang on a minute, like, you know, there is actually a little bit of protrusion there," and then you go, "Well, okay, maybe we're not going crazy." So I think it's getting to that point now where people want to make sure that they're covered for the stuff that they're providing and the information that they're giving. And again, I'm going to harp on it the whole episode. Like for the cost of a survey and a couple of hours in it, you know, there's a peace of mind there that everything's captured and everything's appropriate, and you're going to get it right. You're going to get the job done right the first time and not have to pay any more money on it.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, there's going to be times where even if you don't get a survey, that before you even get approved, that another consultant or counsel or certifier is going to ask for that survey anyway. So it's a lot of times it's going to be needed from someone at some point anyway.
It's a good peace of mind. Okay, even if they're not like. It's fantastic for pools. It's fantastic for garage. Even if we're doing a small extension on property and you don't really need to know your whole house, if you've got the whole block and then all of a sudden, you know, a couple of years down the track, you go, well, you know what, kind of want a pool. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything extra. You've already got the survey. It's already done, and away you go. You chuck the pool on the already provided survey, and away everybody's happy. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those documents that are so fruitful for the entire time of owning that property. It's just, I think everyone should get one. So I guess while we're talking about surveys, I guess while we're talking about things like pools and things like that, we do, there are partial surveys that we do for pools, and we just get a small portion of the block.
Only what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. But it gives us peace of mind that we're within that certain space that we have to be within the boundary, because 9 times out of 10, the fence is in the wrong spot anyway, right? Like, and like if you're measuring off a fence, chances are that you're not measuring to the boundary. And then if we go to slap a pool in and the pool is not a metre off the boundary, it's not a compliant development anymore if we were going that direction. And it's also an issue for the council because you have to be a metre away from the boundary. So yes, it is an unfortunate cost, but it's an absolutely necessary cost. G'day guys, just quickly, if you're finding this podcast info relevant to you, then I'd like to quickly talk to you about what we do at MT Design Collective. You hear us talk all the time about the importance of solid, detailed home design practices so that you're not left with extra fees, delays, or unexpected costs in building your ultimate home. Here at MTDC, we design homes and provide plans that builders love to build and councils love to approve. If you're looking at a renovation, a new build, or alteration, then we'd love to help you work out the next steps forward. Book a free, no obligation chat with us, and we'll come out to your site, as it's the only way to truly get authentic, no bullshit advice. Link is in the show notes. Okay, back to the show.
Yeah, I think a simple way to break it down, like the way the types of surveys that you most commonly see, you've got your detail survey at the beginning, which has all of the information about the block. It's what you can use to design with and design well with. Just before construction starts, you'll get a peg-out survey, which is aligning where the proposed outline's going, whatever you're putting in, pool, garage, and the survey is going to certify basically where it's going and this is correct per the approved plans. Which, if it was done off a survey, you've now got 2 points of verification. And then the last thing is sometimes, depending on the counter conditions and things, you might need an ident survey at the end of construction. So there's 3 points there that you're verifying that we've designed it where we need to design it, and designed it well. Second one, the peg out survey, it's now been placed on site where it should be and everything's falling out where it needs to be. And then the last one being the ident survey, if needed, to say this is a complete finished product.
And it is where it is.
This is where it is, and it matches the approvals, the peg out, and the contour survey at the beginning. So you miss one of those, and there's a chance that between those 2 points that you're going back to fix things if something goes awry for any reason.
Well, like, I mean, these are the easy ones. So you've got the contour surveys and the detail surveys. They're the easy ones. They are all, the contour surveys are split up into a few groups. You've got the Australian height datum, or the AHD system, which is usually used for the flood prone areas, and you've got the assumed data the assumed datum for places that aren't so flood prone, and then you've got of those spaces, you've also got a greenfield and a brownfield survey. They're all varying costs, and at the moment the greenfield means it's a new estate and most of it's already surveyed. There's markers there. They don't have to do a lot of work. It's easy. It's easy money.
Simpler, cheaper.
Yeah, and then you've got the brownfield ones, which are the old school blocks. People have usually already built on them. There's usually a knockdown rebuild or a reno situation. They're a little bit harder because they've got to work around a lot of bits and pieces rather than the estate, because you're walking around trees, you're walking around structures and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of cost variance there. However, I think one of the dangers, in particular around, Newcastle and all of the old school spaces around, Sydney, Newcastle, and Port Mac, we have, I guess, what they call a limited title. And the limited title, I think, is a bit of a scary conversation. Like, we've had multiple clients, in particular in like Wallsend. Wallsend's a very old space, that these guys don't have a boundary.
Defined boundary.
They don't have a defined boundary, and that's what a limited title means for these guys. A limited title means, hey, we don't know where your boundary is, and we're assuming it simply because your fence is there. When a limited title comes across our table, and usually it will come in a form of an old yellow scanned in piece of paper, and they measure things in links and chains and all that kind of stuff. It's not a definitive number. Well, it is a definitive number, but it's not an easy number to place.
And it hasn't been sort of related back to any of the more recent survey markers, and that's why it hasn't really been defined. No one's gone back to measure it since it was subdivided in 1850.
Whenever. Yes. It's I think particularly in Wallsend, like all these developing suburbs and all these 15-minute cities and things like that, will end up having these things where the limited titles are starting to become a thing. And what they don't, sometimes people who purchase these blocks don't understand that making a limited title registered with the LRS or the Land and Registry Services is really, really expensive. It's like $4,500. It's $5,500 to get a survey that has gone from limited title to something that's registered.
Yeah, and then you got to register it. Then you got to do, so there's the surveying work, and then there's the documentation. It's got to be lodged, then approved. It's a
process.
It's a process. Like, it's a straightforward process, but there are steps, and each step has its expenses.
And I dare say it's a first in, best dressed kind of situation. If somebody can get in there, whoever's like, let's say if you're on the street and you're the only person that's going in to get a registered lot, you basically make the rules within a guideline. If your fences are there and then you've got a limited title, you're establishing, hey, this is actually my block, and then it's on everybody else to go, well,
yeah, hang on, my fence is actually over here. And then it just like knock-on effect all the way down there.
All of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, quick, let's get ours registered, and who's got a little bit more, and then there's a whole system there that's not properly properly measured because there's no definitive line. They're all basing this I guess this boundary off what was an unsealed road with no gutters and a stone footpath. You know what I mean? Like it's the limited titles are incredibly expensive, but incredibly necessary to start putting them in as part of the Torrens title or the land and registry services.
Yeah, and then it's once you get this, if you've got limited title and you get it registered through the LRS, it is done. Like it is locked in. So you don't need to do it again. There's no expiry date. If you have limited title, get it registered. It's now set in stone.
We've had again. I'll go to Wall's End, but we've got like the historical space of Wall's End, like West Wall's End and things like that. They're on limited title, and one of the guys that we were working with, I think he had a block, and all he wanted was like this little studio so he could do some work out in the back. And the bloke next door to him, his building was right on the boundary, which is okay, depending on how wide your block is. There's no dramas with that. But his eave didn't stop at the boundary. His eave went 450 mil back into his property. But then you're like, well, okay, well, hang on a minute. Well, we have to go and get you a proper registered survey. The registered survey shows that old mate's over his boundary by 450 mil, but the structure's been there for forever. You can't tell him to rip his eave off. But we still have to keep that separation of 1,800 mil between the two spaces.
Well, that probably brings up an important point of why it's important to do it, because there are cases if you build something, because there are cases where you don't have to get it registered, and if you want to run the risk and you build it anyway, if someone then registers it later and I've actually built onto your block, the neighbor. There's a whole legal situation that opens up. It's are you going to buy that sliver of land is X amount of square meters? Are you going to buy that off me, or are you going to knock down your shed? Like it's a.
It reminds me of a job down at Carrington. Actually, like you remember that the client that we had, and
it was a fence line.
It was something wacky, and it was like a really short, like it was a really short frontage, and it was a beautiful little cottage out of Carrington. And if anyone's been out to Carrington, they are very short blocks. They're very 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 eclectic, very very old school homes, which is a beautiful spot. But it's like this poor couple like had this straight run right up their boundary, but old mate next door built into their spot by 500 mil. They technically owned that block, but because it wasn't registered, or because they were on a limited title, they couldn't do anything. So what they ended up having to do is just go, well, okay, we'll give that part of the block we'll give them the block, and then we'll have to move our build or our reno in an extra 500 mil because they have to be the 900 mil difference, right? So it's just a crazy system, and once upon a time when old mate was like, yeah, this is where my fence is, this is where I kind of feel like my boundary is, that system's out, and unfortunately, while we're having this developing world where everyone wants to have their space and have these big blocks, people are going to start missing out on blocks if they're not. These conversations aren't had and these registrations aren't done.
Well, I'm sure it's been raised too. Like, if you need to get a peg out survey, how do you get a peg out survey on a limited title?
You can't. You can't, and they won't do it.
No.
So and when like I know a couple of surveyors, if they're going to do a peg out survey, they want the registered title, and if they don't have the registered title, they can't get the peg out survey, and then becomes this massive, again, knock-on effect. Okay, well, we're gonna have to register it. Okay, we're gonna have to do the peg out survey. Oh, hang on a minute, your block's actually not that big. Now you're in trouble. You have to dial it back. Back to the drawing board. More money. All this kind of drama. All for this. Well, not limited title, but all for a small cost at the start, relative to make sure that everything's
it's all comparison, isn't it? Like you could be spending money early on to get this done, but the saving of the alternative to not getting it done right, what can go wrong will go wrong in some cases. So.
Absolutely, and it's also a really good opportunity for a good survey that it will capture it'll capture the info nice and fast. Like it's a snapshot of what's on the block, how it's going to be used, any dramas that we're going to be faced with. Most of the time, they find, again, we've been saved by surveys so many times. Like a survey comes through and a job out at Singleton. You remember how there was like a sewer line running out the back, and they ended up capturing like an inspection point that nobody knew was there.
It was buried. It was,
like under meters of dirt, and they picked it up, and it was just like bullet dodged because it would have if because we know we're not allowed to build within 1,500 mil of a sewer inspection point or of a sewer line. Or, there are rules and things that we have to do. But we were building this garage right on top of the sewer inspection point. We can't do that. You're not allowed to do it. It has to be in an open space. There's been so many times, and I think it's incredibly important that I think we should get a surveyor. We'll get a surveyor on it. I think we'll rip in next week. We'll get somebody on and we'll have a chat. But I think it's important to identify, whether or not you've got a limited title. If you need a contour survey, how many times have we got a job that's been a DA approved and they've come to us for a CC and we've just got this dirty line that's angled from front to back saying, oh yeah, this is approximately how your block's falling. Well, hang on a minute. Stop you there.
There's a job comes straight to mind. It was a job that was DA approved. Someone else had drawn the plans. The previous architect either wasn't drafting anymore or can't remember the circumstances around it. We picked up the job. There was an extension. It was a rear extension of a house that had quite a bit of fall on it. So they worked out the stairs, the height really of this extension. They never got a survey to find out exactly what the slope of the land was, but they still got DA approval for these are the heights, these are how many stairs I need to get down to this lower section. And all of a sudden, we're drawing these plans to do for the construction certificate. Like, okay, let's go off the information that we've got, the DA approved plans. Where's the survey? Like, how do we know that the heights that we're drawing these plans to aren't either, a meter too tall or a meter too low or whatever have you? And by the time we got the survey, it wound out that the floor levels weren't right. We had to, I can't remember if we ended up needing to go back through council for the approvals or what that resolution was, but the survey pretty quickly, we compared the two and was like, well, these floor levels that have been drawn and approved just won't work.
Ever. Well, how many times have we been? How many times has the client been stitched up from when, they come to us and say, hey, listen, we're doing a 10 unit strata not a subdivision, but we're doing 10 units strata. Can you do the construction certificate? Yeah, absolutely we can. What have you got? Send us all the docs. All of a sudden, we're drawing up all of these units on this block and the survey hasn't been put on properly, and then something's been blown out or something hasn't been measured out, and then all of a sudden it's not compliant, and then all of a sudden we have to go to this client who's spent tens of thousands of dollars on these designs and said, well, you know what, this doesn't work anymore, and then they'll go, why? And we go, well, the measurements don't work.
Yeah, the measurements that we got don't match the survey that either wasn't gotten or wasn't applied properly or whatever the scenario is.
But what does that mean for you? Well, that means you can't build on that much block anymore. That means you have to bring everything in that much more, or this doesn't work. And
there's always fixes to these things too. It's like, well, this is because of this is what we have to do. Usually what it will mean is we'll apply the survey that first you get the survey, we apply it to the plans that had been approved, and then we go, right, these are the things that need to change. What does that mean? We draw the plans as we were going to do anyway, but they have to go back to council to get re-stamped. Yeah. And just basically you're going back and going through those costs again. So it's like there's fixes to these problems all the time, but it's particularly if you capture it before you start works. Or even then there's fixes to it, but the later on the piece that this problem's picked up, the
harder it's going to be.
The harder it is going to be fixed.
Yeah, and it's so important. It's so important. And a surveyor is probably one of our go-tos. Like we always have a surveyor that's ready and available. We always shoot for one, regardless of how big the extension. If there is an extension, or if there is an increase of the footprint, or if we're adding something somewhere in the block that hasn't been measured or anything like that, pool, granny flat, shed, garage, carport, whatever it might be, if it's anywhere in between, even remotely close to a boundary, we get the survey. As a matter of fact, we even get the survey for a job because of asset protection zones. If they're on a big rural block and you can't build within a certain space of your boundary, we're doing a granny flat for a client out and somewhere out in the bush. I can't remember where, but I know that they've got this massive block, and we went to go and put the studio right in the back corner. Unfortunately, there was like a small portion of it that's in the asset protection zone. So instead of them having it in that back corner, they just went, you know what? Let's put it right in the smack bang in the middle of the block. So then come out with a survey, had to identify where the asset protection zone is, because a detailed survey just doesn't do contours. It does everything. And then you just smash it right in there. All of a sudden we know our cut and fill levels because we do our pads. We know how much dirt we're moving around. We know what's around it. We know anything that's going to be a drama. If they just got that in the first place, there wouldn't have been an asset protection zone problem. There wouldn't have been an issue with, how far it is off the boundary, because, rural zones have different rules to resi zones.
And not to mention, like, I'd imagine from a builder's point of view as well, like if they're saying two sets of plans, one had a survey, one didn't, they're going to be more confident in the one that has the survey, because they can see that everything's been picked up that's already there. Any hazards that from their point of view, they go, oh, hey, look, access even. Like if they've got a full survey to find out, distances between your access points, whether there's stairs, whether there's retaining walls in the middle of the way or anything like that. I can't think of a single consultant from the start to end that won't look at a survey and go, I probably didn't need that.
Yeah, ever, not once. Because we can tell the builders how much they're going to be digging. We do pad heights. We do how much cut and fill needs to be done. We have our particular plans have how much dirt they're going to be shifting around. It's the difference between bearers and joists. It's the difference between slab on ground. It makes the difference. And it's a simple cost at the start. Get your own, or get us to get it. We know people. We can get it sorted.
I think they're the main points. I think getting a surveyor in to sort of go a bit deeper as well. I mean, there's probably heaps of things that we haven't even touched on that they'll be able to go a bit deeper into. And
I'll tell you what, I've got a couple of surveys. We might get them in the next couple of weeks. A couple of guys are local, and we've got a couple of big guys down in Sydney, so I might get a couple of them up and. We'll ask them the questions, and I think it's important to hear from them exactly, why a survey is important. And I think people need to know, and who's better to hear it off than the guys who do it every day.
Yeah,
I reckon. All right, mate. Thanks for joining us again tonight. And hey, look, we'll nail this. Don't you worry about it.
Do it again.
All right, mate. Have a good one. There, have it, guys. Thanks for joining us again tonight. What we're going to do is we'll get the surveyors in the next couple of weeks. Be sure to join in. And if you have any questions between now and then, make sure you reach out. We will ask them all the hard questions, and we'll work out how to deal with it as we go through the process. All right, have a good night. Thanks for listening to this week's app of The Lounge. To make sure you don't miss out on the next episode, hit subscribe. We'd love to get the message out to more homeowners like you. Make sure you leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next app.